Failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris is back, making her first high-profile speech since her brutal election loss, and this is how it started. Not a great start, and Kamala Harris used the speech to criticize Donald Trump, which was to be expected. But she also used her speech to attempt to make a joke. I think that's what she was doing here.
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago, the one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it. So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me what you've been thinking about these days. Well,
the internet is flooded with posts roasting Kamala Harris for her 15-minute speech in San Francisco, many on social media stating the obvious, that Kamala Harris is still cringe. Now, while there's been a lot of talk around Donald Trump's approval ratings, the numbers from CNN show that right now, Americans would still pick Donald Trump over Kamala Harris.
Who would be doing a better job as president? Guess who comes out on top? Within the margin of error, but comes out on top. This looks a lot like the election result, right? Trump 45%, 2 points ahead of Harris at 43%. 12% say they'd be doing about the same. But this is the key nugget here. It's not just about regretting that vote. It's literally saying who would be doing the better job right now. And Trump continues to score a higher percentage of the vote than Kamala Harris. This looks a heck of a lot like the election result. We have just seen this in poll after poll after poll.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt spoke out, encouraging Kamala Harris to run again.
Your time. Thank you, everyone. And just to add on the Kamala Harris point, I think I speak for everyone at the White House. We encourage Kamala Harris to continue going out and do speaking engagements. You'll hear from the president at 11 o'clock. See you guys later.
Joining us now is Josh Hammer, Senior Editor-at-Large at Newsweek. Josh, great to speak to you. Donald Trump has celebrated 100 days back in office with a rally in Michigan, and he sat down with an interview on ABC News where he absolutely roasted the journalists. And before we get into that, which you don't want to miss, Josh, what are your reflections on Trump's 100 days? He, of course, made a lot of promises before coming back into power. He's been criticised non-stop about being chaotic and unpredictable. But really, when you compare him to leaders that we have in the world at the moment and leaders we've had in the past, such as his predecessor, how would you assess Trump and his first 100 days?
Gabrielle, it's the fastest 100 days in presidential history. I mean, this is the entire Elon Musk notion of move fast and break things taken to the nth degree and implemented in presidential form. I mean, what we've seen from Donald Trump thus far is indicative of a man who was president and then was out in the political wilderness for 4 years, someone who was prosecuted in unprecedented fashion in 4 different jurisdictions, almost went to jail, was almost assassinated, came within millimeters of losing his life before a global stage, and someone who had this grand realization that, oh my God, I'm going to be back into power and I don't have a moment's time to waste. So that has clearly been his mentality since day one. He also looks like he's enjoying it. I mean, he makes a lot of jokes. He's laughing. He's having a good time out there. Because, again, I think this is someone who genuinely realized that he came within millimeters of dying, and he's now making the most of it. So, look, when it comes to the actual substantive issues there on immigration, I think he gets an A+. That is his signature issue. He has delivered and then some. When it comes to the deportation operations, when it comes to the fact that border crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border have decreased by 95%. I mean, that's an astonishing statistic, 95% there. Now, there are still some irons to be worked out there. So the judicial insurrection, as I call it, is a really, really, really big deal. And unless Congress and the president find some way to deal with these rogue lower court judges, those judges could easily find a way to derail this entire agenda. The tariffs, the trade, it remains to be seen. I mean, it's very much a live ball. It's a jump ball. It's up in the air. We'll see ultimately what happens with it there. But as of now, I think Americans are not necessarily wrong for souring a little bit on their perceptions of the economy. After all, the stock market has been volatile at best and negative at worst for a few weeks now. But again, it's still too early on that front. I happen to be a fan of Donald Trump's trade war against communist China in particular there, and we'll see what happens. But for now, I am overall quite deeply pleased with what I've seen looking at the grand overall picture.
And Josh, thank you for bringing up his assassination attempt, because that is something that the mainstream media would like to forget, that it wasn't all that long ago that he was shot at on stage, and the course of history could have changed very quickly. Look, Trump sat down for an interview on ABC News, which was, of course, an opportunity for the journalist Terry Moran to ask a couple of gotcha questions. And, you know, that's their game, right? They're trying to get him. Well, good luck when you're dealing with, obviously, the most powerful man in the world, but someone who knows the media game better than anyone. And here is Donald Trump calling out the reporter's question about having confidence in his Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth.
And I think he's going to be a very good hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100% confidence in Pete Hegseth?
I don't have 100% confidence in anything. Okay, anything. Do I have 100%? It's a stupid question. Look,
it's a pretty important position.
No. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
The interview is just so awkward for journalist Terry Moran. The president ends up lecturing him about the network he works for.
Do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across the stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst, I have to be honest with you.
You know, I mentioned in my editorial that the coverage of Trump's first 100 days has been 92% negative by the mainstream media, and I think Donald Trump has every right to call it out.
Well, you know, elsewhere in that interview with Terry Moran of ABC News, Donald Trump literally tells him that he picked him to do this interview in the Oval Office because he never heard of him. He was like, I never heard of you. I figured it's worth a shot. I mean, how bad can it possibly be? And, you know, I mean, this rally in Michigan that he held for his 100-day rally, I watched pretty much the entire thing there. I mean, I'm reminded when I watch these lengthy Trump rallies, Gabriella, whether it's on the campaign trail, whether it's celebrating 100 days, whether it's at the convention last year, he is so funny. I have been saying this for years and years. One of Donald Trump's most underappreciated political gifts is that he is a very, very funny man. And he calls it like he sees it. Everyone knows that Donald Trump is Donnie from Queens. He's the guy from the outer borough, from across the river from Manhattan there, who is deeply in touch, despite the fact that he has been wealthy essentially his entire life. He is deeply in touch with the median American who doesn't care for any kind of fluff and just wants to call it like they see it there. The median American is sick of the fact that media gatekeepers for decades and decades continue to distort and to obfuscate and to try to frame their stories in a way that is beneficial to their own parochial interests, even if it goes against the interests of the American common good there. Donald Trump has no interest in playing these games whatsoever. And frankly, the fact that he is just so funny and humorous about it is frankly, in many ways, the gift that keeps on giving. I think back also, I mean, as far back as the 2016 campaign, that's probably one of the reasons that he actually beat Hillary Clinton back then, too, because Hillary Clinton was very, very, very unfunny. She was the opposite of funny. She was deeply serious.
And that has not changed.
No, that has not changed at all. She was deeply unfunny, deeply serious, and frankly, a profoundly unlikable way. And then when you had Donald Trump side by side with her, just making all these jokes and just trying to speak to blue-collar six-pack Joe out of Oklahoma or Colorado there, that contrast has always been a tremendous political gift and a benefit for Donald Trump's political fortunes.
100%, and he never misses. Now, former First Lady Michelle Obama has essentially called the Trump administration racist and claimed that the deportations of illegal immigrants who came to America illegally are being carried out due to skin colour. Now, she went on to say on this podcast episode with Jay Shetty that these deportations are keeping her up at night. Let's take a listen.
My fears are for what I know is happening out there in streets all over the city. And now that we have leadership that is sort of indiscriminately determining who belongs and who doesn't, and we know that those decisions aren't being made with courts and with due process, and, you know, that it's being made like this cop that pulled my brother over when he was 12. You don't look like somebody that belongs. You know, I can determine just by looking at you that you're a good person or you're not a good person. And knowing that there's so much bias and so much racism and so much ignorance that fuels those kind of choices.
You know, isn't it interesting that Michelle Obama failed to mention that her husband Barack Obama deported more people than any other president, kicking out 3 million people in 8 years, but that never seemed to keep her up at night?
Yeah, they call Barack Obama the deporter in chief, actually, his left-wing critics who were trying to get the better of him on that particular issue. So, you know, Michelle Obama has nothing if not a short memory, it seems. But I mean, she's saying here that this deportation operation, the whole Tom Homan, round up all the illegals, kick them out thing is keeping her up at night. Do you know what's actually keeping American citizens up at night? When people like Laken Riley in Athens, Georgia, are brutally murdered by an illegal alien who was previously deported and then was left back in his country. The American people are staying up at night due to the fact that there are MS-13 trendy Aragua thugs, rapists, murderers, gangbangers proliferating with increasing frequency or outright ubiquity all throughout these United States, due to the abhorrent policies, to an extent, of her husband Barack Obama, to a much greater extent, frankly, to Barack Obama's old running mate, the former President Joe Biden, who just let in 8 to 10 million illegal aliens based on some counts there. The American people have no interest in this. You can look at opinion poll after opinion poll after opinion poll. It's actually remarkable, Gabrielle, just how much the American people have shifted on this issue. This is actually one of my favorite polling statistics. I go back to the second Barack Obama term, speaking of the Obama family. Back then, around 2013, 2014, give or take, it was roughly 1/3 of Americans, 35%, that told pollsters they supported the deportation of all illegal aliens in this country. Fast forward now to the year 2025. That number is between 60 and 65%. It is almost doubled. The American people have come around to Donald Trump's position on the mass deportation issue. Donald Trump, frankly, deserves a lot of credit for that, actually. He's been single-handedly responsible, I think, for shifting the American electorate when it comes to their stance on this. But this is yet another example as to how Barack and Michelle Obama, who have their fancy place in Martha's Vineyard, I know because I've seen it. I've actually been there. I've seen it with my own eyes. They have their fancy place, Martha's Vineyard. They have their God knows how much money, fortune, Netflix contract there. These people are just woefully out of touch. They have learned precisely zero lessons, Gabriella. Zero lessons. They have learned from getting schlacked the way they did in 2024. I'm not entirely sure what it will take to wake them up out of their own stupor. I'm just very happy, frankly, that it is not my problem to figure that out.